thermal imaging. This is a video, so you guys are going to have the full video back with audio. So if Sergio is going to make comments, we'll hear them all night long. So let me do a quick demo real quick, just so you guys know what you're looking at tomorrow morning. You guys see me in that camera. That should be orange, red, and yellow, right? So that means I'm the warmest thing out here, obviously, against even our 80-degree temperature that we have. It's a little sticky for me. So you guys are from up north. This is starting to get there. This is regular summer weather for you guys. You know, I know, because I actually grew up not too far from where they live. So, but anyway, we're literally looking for those blue and black spots to kind of move on their own intelligently. Is this the most active device I have? Absolutely not. I probably catch something on here that's questionable about once a month. Is it nice to have it to ready? Yes. It's an absolute must have it to ready, because if something's going on, you're not going to be, oh my God, let me find the record button. Let me get the, you know, it's already set up. It's already ready to go. So you're just going to be my cameraman all night long. And it's going to fluctuate. So based on wherever, like, you want to try to keep somebody in view at all times, because watch what happens if I'm not in the picture. That orange, red, and yellow goes somewhere else. You see how it moves around a little bit? Yeah. Okay, so obviously the asphalt is going to be the warmest thing, and even though I'm warmer than it, I'm just not in the picture. So now it's going to change back again. So again, when you guys look at this tomorrow morning, I may give you some markers if I find a few things. If Sergio tells me tonight, like, hey, this thing is really weird, you were talking to somebody else, I didn't get a chance to show you, but it's already recorded, so I can just check it out tomorrow morning. Let's see here, what do we want to go to next? Let's go to spirit boxes, because those are exciting, right? Who's the more chatty one out of the two of you?
You.
Okay.
That's me.
Normally I pick up on that stuff as a writer. I usually characterize all of you. Like Mary's very quiet, but she's going to have her own separate thing anyway. But I usually go to my chatty one for a spirit box. Why? Because I need you to tell me what you're hearing. What is a spirit box? This allows us to communicate with the dead. Okay, we're going to use 2 different types tonight. I actually used 4 total, but we're going to focus on the ones that record. This one in particular is going to sweep through FM radio stations at a very quick rate. It's going to be that white noise like you hear on TV, and then Zach Bagans tells you what he thinks he heard in the middle of it. Only we're doing it in real time, and mine is slowed down. I want the radio chatter to come through. Song lyrics, DJs, commercials. If you hear those things, I want to know what they are. In the event you have a hard time hearing this thing, because it's not an easy job to do, it's okay. It's going to record the entire session for us, even on mute with no outside noise. We're not going to know what questions are being asked. We're not going to know any of those things. It's just going to be a matter of, you're going to get a nice even recording tomorrow at a nice even level, even when I say, Kendra, go ahead and turn that down. So let's, because I'm going to be talking, you know what I mean? So I'll say, turn it down, it's fine, it's recording. We'll have it tomorrow morning. So if something pops up out of it, it's cool. Don't worry about it. If we catch it in real time, it's fine. We'll take that too. So let me set this up to record, and I have this set up super simple so that all you have to do is worry about one button, and at the very top there's a wheel. It controls the volume. So obviously when I'm talking, you see the little wheel? There's a button that turns it on and off. Don't do that. I'll have to reset the whole thing, and it's a mess. But yeah, just worry about that little wheel. And obviously I'll say spirit box is up. Actually, you're the only spirit box that has volume, so it'll be, all right, get that thing up and running. Let's get that thing moving. All right, let's get you squared away. You need a spirit box too.
Okay.
Only because you're so quiet. You're getting the quiet spirit box.
Okay.
This particular spirit box is an actual app. So this one, that didn't work out too well, did it? So this app is going to give us words from time to time in the center of the screen. As you guys can see the 3 dots in the middle of the screen there, it'll give us a word randomly. Okay, so it's going to save all those words to a list. We're going to have that list, and you guys are going to get the entire list back. So last night's terms, they had 74 terms show up. That's a little heavier than normal. Okay, I normally get between 55 to 60 in that kind of time frame. I'm going to clear them out because they already have their list. They had theirs this morning. So here's what I'm going to tell you about the list. 80% of this is absolute bullshit. Doesn't mean anything. This thing's meant to be a game. It's meant to be a hoax. So the game we're playing is what's giving us the word, the app or the ghosts. So that's where the 5 to 20% stuff comes in. If it's too vague, I'm going to tell you flat out it's too vague. I need something more specific. So you check the list by hitting the little calendar. It'll give you the full list, and you circle back. Those are the only 2 buttons you ever need to worry about. She's like, yes, I got something too. Emily, you're getting a device that doesn't record. However, it is very important. I just got this thing like 2 months ago. I'm still learning more and more about it. But it is a great in the moment. I mean, we need to know what's going on with this thing. It is a multi-tool, so it does several different things. I'm going to tuck this stuff away real quick just so that we can get started right away. So your device, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to measure ambient temperature. So what does that mean? That means if Sergio finds something on his camera, he says, Nick, there's a blue spot moving around. I want to know what that blue spot is, where it is, and what we can do about it. Is it debunked? Is it something we can prove? Or is it something actually from the spirit world? The second thing it's going to do is it's going to give us an EMF meter. An EMF meter measures electromagnetic fields. Electromagnetic fields are 3 different styles. So the first one's natural. So usually you have a reading of 0 at natural EMF readings. And then it's going to measure electronic devices. So those will range anywhere between 0 to about 2.4, 2.5. Anything above 2.5, I usually consider anything kind of paranormal. Now, unless it's in a pattern, it's the only time I ever worry about something that's in a pattern, because that comes from an electronic device. An electronic device is going to give pulses or rhythms of EMF. So a cell phone, because it's sending out a signal to our cell phone towers, is going to constantly send out a signal. So it's going to look like a rhythm. 2.5, 0.1, 2.5, 0.1, 2.5, 0.1. That's what it's going to look like. So your bottom number is the temperature outside. So that's going to be the yellow probe here. The top number is EMF. You can see it went to 0.7, probably because my smartwatch got close to it. The last thing it's going to do, and this is where things get fun, this thing deters motion. Not deter, detects. So it doesn't like to react properly over here. And we really need to stop demoing it from the start, because it just does not want to balance itself out. Basically what's happening is that the antenna that I pulled up is creating an EMF field. If that EMF field gets interrupted by something, even a parking meter or an actual man-made object, it's going to make a sound, and it'll be pretty steady. If the closer it gets, the higher the sound it'll make, the higher the dots will go. So I'll show you a little bit more about that at our first location. We don't use it all the time anyway, because it could be super annoying on our pieces of audio. So at times, that'll be really what we're going after. What I need you to really focus on are those big numbers. That's the EMF. In the event it's a 2.5 or higher, that's when you guys really need to stop and start asking questions. You're going to be basically working as a team. So that one goes to you. Notice I left that back flap kind of open, so this way you can get to the REM pod pretty quickly. And again, I'll show you more about that at the first location. So, recap on what you're going to actually get back. Full thermal imaging, audio, that full word list with backlinks, by the way. It's not just because Nick said so. I'm always going to give you a link of where I got my information from. The Spirit Box recording with a few audio markers of things that I find. So again, I'll give backlinks as to why it's relevant. And then, of course, you're going to have the full audio for all the stories all over again. So if I didn't say that once, I'm saying it again. So, questions, comments, concerns so far? None? Peanut gallery? You guys going to be SpongeBobs all night? It's interactive, guys. So we start here for a reason. The building behind me is haunted. I normally start across the street, but neighbors upstairs are getting a little not so great about me starting my ghost tour at their house. So they're apartments. But anyway, that place used to be called Big John's. So Big John was a football player for the 1947 New York Giants. I give you all these word clues all the time, all night long. I'll always say those words a little bit slower for your Spirit Box purposes. 1947 New York Giants football. So anyway, he used to sit in the back of the bar, and he would tell the, let's get out of their way because he's probably coming through his car. Hold on.
This is going to be interesting.
To the bartender, if the cadets that were coming over from the Citadel, if they were of age or not to drink. So one night, 2 guys come in, they're not old enough to drink. Big John tells the bartender, get them out of here. So they leave, pretty pissed off. They come back the next night, and they try to steal the cash register from the very front of the bar, facing East Bay Street. So what happens from there is, Big John sees what's happening, they get into a little bar fight. All of a sudden, a few shots go off, and John gets hit in the neck. Bullet ricochets, and it lands in the wall. John gets up, he goes back to the bar, and he says, get me another beer, go get them guys an ambulance. First off, nobody dies in that story. Second, what's haunting the place? Guesses. Come on, guys, interactive. Bullet hole. It's allegedly still there. I say allegedly because they're renovating it to something else. It's probably going to be another bar. But I'll definitely go in and check. The only time I've ever had any kind of EMF is in the front of that bar from random times. It's not always constant. So that way we know it's not coming from the building. People that sit in the front of that bar get a little queasy, headache, nauseous. I bring that shit up on purpose because I don't know what this is going to do to you guys. I don't know how your body's going to react. If you feel any of those kind of things, the slightest headache, a little bit of nausea, any of that stuff, please let me know immediately. I don't say that to scare you because this isn't a scary tour. You guys are in control of the dose tonight. But it's a big deal to me. So just please, if you feel anything going awry, just let me know.
Okay.
Let's get our minds off our own health. Nobody wants to think that we're going to get sick on a ghost tour. So we had a big earthquake here in 1886. Have you guys taken any historical tours in Charleston at all?
We did like
A year ago. So vaguely remember stuff?
Vaguely remember.
And what about you guys? No?
No.
Nada? Alright. So we had a big earthquake here, 1886, and it's a big one because we don't have earthquakes. This is the East Coast, not the West. So apparently this is where the first death occurred as well. A piece of the mantle that you guys see in the center of the building also goes around the front. And a piece of it broke off, hit somebody in the head, and allegedly killed them. I say allegedly because I have no proof. I'm not going to lie to you guys at all on any point tonight. I'm not going to get super excited about something that might be vague or irrelevant. So I had a young lady last night. She was about 11 or 12 years old, and she was super excited about that device, and she was showing me every word, trying to relate it to my story. And I loved her excitement, but it was like, I'm sorry, sweetheart, it's not relevant. Let's go. You know. But anyway, you guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Yeah.
You guys ready for this? All right, we're gonna go this way. First thing you guys are going to notice about a lot of the stops that we make, you're going to notice that I love parking lots. Why is that? First off, I'm not just taking you to random lots so you guys know where to park. These are places that once were or actually have paranormal activity. So I'm out here 6 nights a week. I know where the hot spots are going to be. And last night I actually did a whole separate diversion because the words that were coming up on the spirit boxes weren't about my next stop, so I skipped it and went to the stop after it, and that's where all the activity happened. So I made a wise choice. By skipping a location. So, but anyway, this place is what I call the Big Red Barn Lot. This is where we keep the horses for your carriage rides. Okay, so the horses are in the front of the barn. Those windows up there don't have glass in them. So Henry, you're the only one with a noisemaker. You don't want to have that thing too loud up there. It will spook those horses. So we don't want to make any ponies mad. The only history I have here, guys, and this is just a place where I get to kind of work with each one of you individually to show you more tactics about your specific device. The only history here is that this is where we held horses that used to deliver milk and eggs to Charleston. So just kind of think about that for a second. I gave you keywords: delivery, milk, and eggs. Spirit boxes. This is not, is somebody here? This isn't television, okay? We're going to stay away from yes or no questions altogether. Why? Because if somebody says no, that they're not here, that means they answered you, and they aren't here. They lied to you. So we're just going to stay away from yes or no questions. I want detail. I want specifics. Delivery, milk, eggs, those kind of things. But let's get a little bit further, and kind of this is your level 1. Okay, so we're going to ask simple things. If somebody's here with us, tell me what color this barn is. We know the answer. It's red. But let's say you don't hear the color red. They can't find the word red through a DJ or a song lyric. It's okay. They might give you something specifically red. Blood, heart, fire truck, fire. Whenever I say these things to you, you picture something red in your mind. It's the same type of principle. This is about putting clues together. What are they trying to tell us? Are they really answering the questions I'm giving, or I'm asking, or are they just giving me stuff that they want me to know? It happens all the time. So, in the event you don't get an answer after a couple of tries, again, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time here. You want to try to open up that question and what's inside the barn. Now we know we have horses, which are animals. They're draft horses, that's the breed. They deliver milk and eggs, but also remember that milk and eggs can be portrayed as calcium and protein. So kind of think of that as well. The word chicken could even come to mind because of the eggs. Cows could come up because of the milk. I actually literally had the word milk show up here 2 nights ago. So again, it's what's inside the barn? Milk. It was okay, we'll take it. It's a very solid answer. But again, that's how those spirit boxes are going to work. Our next location, you're not going to get the answers. I'm not going to give you stuff that you already know. It's going to be what you can find out. I am going to work with you first, just because I want to show you a little bit more about that particular, camera.
Okay.
But again, with yours just kind of running, this is why I set it up this way. I don't want you guys separating too far. Like, stay within your group, obviously. And if you guys want to swap devices among your group, you can. So you two can swap, you two can swap. I'm playing the whole COVID thing again. So I know, it's just, I'm used to it. It just seems to work. But yeah, I do want to work with him first, but go ahead and take a quick lap. And then I'm going to catch up with you guys in just a minute because I do need to show you some more about your specific device. So, wow, I actually did a perfect balance tonight. So this is actually going to be a pretty quick stop before we actually go learn some real history. Take a quick lap, turn the thing up a little bit so you guys can hear it, ask a few questions, let me know what you come up with. I'll catch up with you in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, camera. So with your particular camera, why we like to stop here, keep in mind it's a regular cell phone. So there's buttons along the top and the side. What I need you to know is that red square that you see on the left-hand side, that means that it's recording. So if it turns to a circle, just let me know. It just means I have to splice some video together for you.
Okay.
I like to know what I'm working with, tomorrow morning. But this is a great place because we have all different types of material. We have wood, asphalt, brick, foliage, vehicles, cars, those kind of things. So this is where you get to take a quick lap and kind of see how all of those different temperatures work together and kind of see how, and if you want to try to keep Mary in view at all times, that would be great. But even if you try to keep one of the other three of us in view off in a distance so that way she can walk next to you, what's the relationship here? What's the dynamic?
Boyfriend, girlfriend.
Okay. I just don't like to assume anything, so you never know. I always say, okay, so Dad over there, like, that's my uncle. Damn it. But at any rate, so in the event you guys want to stick together side by side, that's perfectly fine too. Because at times we will kind of separate like this within one particular area, so that way I can see everybody,
Right.
and that way you can keep one of us in view at all times. The next location, I'm going to show you a little bit more evidence, so that way you kind of have a better gist of what you're looking for. Right now, I just need you to get used to the camera. And you have the gist of how to use your device, right? So it's the calendar and then the circle back. Okay, so do you have any words yet that I need to know about?
When you were talking about eggs and everything, I got value.
Okay, still kind of vague.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Where I have to kind of play, I wanted specific details, usually a noun. So whether it's a name, a person, a thing, something along those lines. Unless it comes up, because we're still close to Big John's and I get a number, then I can usually match that to a jersey number, especially if I get the first name along with it as well. So play around with it. Let me show them a few things on their extra device, and then we're going to go learn some real history. So see what you guys come up with out of that. Expect.
Inspect. This is pretty interesting. A lot more interactive than you would think from a... It's definitely not going to be a bullshit tour. So... But that's good. I kind of like the fact that, we get to actually do stuff. That's the good part.
Anybody sold things over here? Got a goodbye boy.
What?
Got a goodbye boy.
Goodbye, boy.
I've never really used any of these apps. James.
What was the name of the guy over there?
This is why I record stuff.
What goods were sold here? What brought goods here?
You guys ready to learn some history?
Yeah.
Or are you getting some really cool terms that I need to hang out longer? Mary, what do you got?
I'm not sure how clear there, but there's
James?
some.
Well, we got goodbye. That was 2 minutes ago. And we have the name James. So hopefully you have a number that shows up while we were sitting here talking. If I have a James and a number, that's usually a football player. The number is usually their jersey number. I can usually match that up. Now, James is a pretty generic name. So we'll kind of see what happens. I need another clue to tell me who the hell James is. Does that make sense? I don't get excited about one little thing. So that's where I'm going with this. Let's go learn some good history now, some good stuff. This is the only entrance and exit to this parking lot. People do love to fly in here. Let's go ahead and turn that down because this is like a good 5 to 7 minutes. The gate up there, right where those steps are, we've been having a little trouble with the homeless fella wanting to hang out over there. He likes to sleep. He doesn't like loud noises. I'm the guy that gets screamed at. It's never fun. As far as cameras go, people get a little funny about cameras in their vehicles. So if somebody comes by their vehicle, the vehicle's actually pretty full tonight, you're just going to be casually walking around with a cell phone. You don't have a camera filming somebody's vehicle, even though they don't know what it is. I know it's a thermal imaging camera, but if I was an actual car thief, that would be my first damn tool to buy, because now I know how long every car's been here, based on their heat, their temperature. So, where are we, right? We're in another parking lot. Yay! Good happening sights here in Charleston. But this is actually home to the Eliza and Charles Pinckney Mansion site. So we actually met at the corner of Pinckney and East Bay Street, so it's a pretty prominent name here in Charleston. Who the hell were they? They had a son named Charles, that's the second Charles, and then they had a nephew named Charles, that's the third Charles. The son and the nephew, they were signers of our Constitution for South Carolina. Very important stuff. However, I hate politics, and none of you look like you want to talk about politics, so I'm not going to talk about politics. So we're going to talk about Eliza, because there's some really cool stuff around this woman. So Eliza, and this is where you're not going to have what color was George Washington's white horse kind of questions. This is stuff you got to find out. So she married Charles at a young age. That's a good question to ask your spirit box, is what age she was. I will tell you that Charles was over double her age when they got married. So there's a big age gap between them. Why did she marry him? Because her father over in England thought he was dying. He wanted to see all his kids one last time. So he asked for all his kids to come home. She didn't want to go. So what did she do? She got married. This is the 1740s, which means it didn't give her citizenship. It just said, hey, Dad, I don't want to go anywhere, and I don't think you're dying yet. So with that said, she was right. He didn't die, and he starts sending over gifts. So one of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. You guys have been in town for at least a day. You've probably seen the word indigo and didn't even realize what you were looking at. Indigo is a dye. It's a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. Mary's wearing it right now. That's how we still use it. Not every pair of blue jeans has indigo in it, but a good portion of them. But with that said, she had to learn from her slaves how to keep this plant cultivated in our weird winters, because it's not always hot here. Okay? You would think so, but it's not. I know you guys are all from up north, but I had that myth in my head too before I moved down here. I'm originally from Ohio. I don't know if I mentioned that. But anyway, so Eliza calls Dad up and says, how do I keep this plant going? How do I start making some really good money for the family for this? He starts sending her all these contacts from overseas. Indigo is a huge thing over in Europe. Think of the color royal blue. It's where it came from. Even the Civil War, the uniforms, the North wore blue uniforms, the South wore gray. The gray is just less indigo. So there's a lot that goes on with indigo. So rice plantation's going downhill, Aunt Eliza like swoops right in, and boom, she's a businesswoman in the middle of the 1700s before America was even a country. So that's a pretty huge deal. There's no such thing as a businesswoman back then. As much as I'm talking about all this indigo, there's a couple of weird things that are fun to ask while you're here. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles back to back. So he married an Eliza, divorced her, and got married to this Eliza. Their maiden name, not their middle name, starts with the letter L on both of them. That way it helps us determine which one we're talking about. We're talking two, rather. So, hey Eliza, what's your maiden name? You'll hear hopefully one of them. The age thing when they got married obviously is another question. Eliza, you can ask anything you want to about her death. So it's pretty open. What age she was, where did she die, what did she die from, and what U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So that's usually the one people go after first because it's pretty prominent. If that doesn't tell you how important she was to this country, I don't know what will. Let's see what else. You can ask about her kids. I've already given you one of their kids' names. His name is Charles, right? Mm-hmm. So ask maybe how many kids there were, how many boys, how many girls, other names. But that's really as far as I want you to take that. There's a tragedy among one of those children, and I don't want you to start poking the bear. If you do that, all activity usually stops. So, and that's not just here, it's pretty much for the rest of the night. So it's kind of like, I don't know how much pull Eliza has on the paranormal world, but apparently it's a lot, because I've seen it dozens of times. And as far as, I think that, you can ask what happens in a mansion. Obviously it's not here anymore, it's a parking lot. But we're talking 300 years ago, damn near. So again, it's been many buildings since then. So, we are going to explore this place. We're going to spend a good 10 to 15 minutes here based on the amount of activity. Really get used to listening for those specific things. Even if it's a question that you're asking, that answer can go anywhere. It can go to Mary's Spirit Box, his audio, or my audio, and it goes the same for all four of us. So those questions can go anywhere. I don't hover over all of you. This is again where I start bouncing around with you guys. I give you guys a few minutes to kind of get used to where you're at and where the activity is coming from. You can definitely use that REM pod in here where you pull up the antenna. But yeah, definitely explore this lot. We're going to stay within the confines of the wall. What questions you guys have? You guys are really soaked in. I love it. So, all right, there's some chuckles. Everybody's still awake. So I know history stuff isn't super exciting, but that's why I come up with these goofy questions, so that way you have something to kind of go off of. And the indigo is usually prominent. So if you guys go rogue with your own questions, just let me know what those questions are and if you actually got an answer. And if I can answer them before we leave, because I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give you all these answers before we go. So again, if you go rogue and say, hey Eliza, what was your favorite plant? Maybe I can answer that, and you didn't get an answer. So again, just let me know what you guys kind of come up with, and as things happen, we'll see what goes on. So go explore, stay within the confines of the lot.
Where was the mansion? Was it right here?
So the mansion, we're on the same plat of land. So these walls are relatively newer, so probably less than 100 years. But the mansion sat in the front, facing East Bay Street. Eliza's garden was by that left tree over there and came all the way across. And we are standing where the servant and slave quarters would have been for the house. So the Pinckney family owned quite a few servants and slaves. And here they actually had quarters that served just this house. So these weren't slaves that worked on the plantation. These are the folks that she learned how to keep that indigo plant going. So again, they helped her out quite a bit, more so than just cleaning and taking after the kids. So, but yeah, that's the lay of the land. Great question. I normally point that out. I'm sorry I didn't. What else you guys have before you start exploring? All right, go find us some ghost stuff. I'm going to check you guys in. I'm going to take a few minutes and check you guys in real quick, and then I'll start catching up with all of you.
Okay. Across the street, yeah. But this is where the garden was.
state.
What plant used to grow in this garden?
What was your husband's name?
How many sons did you and your husband have? Let's start off. You got the best reader listed.
You guys were gone. I'm like, where'd they all go?
What plant did you bring here from Europe?
Maybe be a little louder?
What plant made you and your husband's riches?
Is that REM pod going? I can see some flashes. Did anything come up while I was telling the story? Nothing crazy? No. We're still relatively close to Big John, so I'll look at Brad too as far as the teammates. So my job here is to really think outside the box with you guys. So if there's a word that's like, that doesn't mean anything, I'm like, yes it does! Like, that's what I'm here for. Oh, I promised to show you some evidence, didn't I? Bring it up. It's funny because it actually took place right in this corner.
How many children did you and your husband have?
Find the right folder. There it is. Alright, so this orange is obviously the wall around it. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So do you see the two heads above the wall?
Yeah.
Okay, so those are two living people because they're orange and red. So we're gonna find two dead heads going the opposite way right about there. Did you see them go by?
Mm-hmm.
So again, they went right past the wall. They should have been the same color as everybody else.
Could just be me, but it kind of felt a little bit heavy. I didn't like really hear anything. I asked, thank you. I just asked what their daughter's name was.
Okay.
I tried to like remember what we learned on the tour.
You said you guys took a tour like a year ago.
Yeah.
Can you remember all
Some
that?
of it. I'm kind of a history nerd. I probably like learned in some documentary I watched in high school or something. I just went with it. I was like, I'm pretty sure they had a kid, like a daughter. So let's see what happens. How did you and your husband make your arrangements?
I do want to pull you guys away from like in between vehicles, just in case somebody needs to come apart. And people get real funny about their cars down here. They see 5 people hanging outside of the truck, they're gonna be pissed. That's probably from you moving around too quickly, taking steps, so forth and so on. Again, I don't like any false positives.
Should we ask what her name is?
Can the daughter's name or
Her, if she's here. Alaya.
Eliza? Why don't you tell us what your daughter's name was? What's your EMF reading?
It like jumped up to 4.4. Out. 2.3.
Out. Is that what came up? Eliza, we're looking for your daughter's name. Can you tell us what that was? You've told me here before. Did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move until you get the. Weird. So, in the 2 years that I've been given this tour, this spot has only let me down 4 times. Where I've walked in and there's no EMF whatsoever. I didn't get anything out of the spirit box. Like nothing made sense that was coming up. 4 times. That's it. 2 years time. So, I don't want to say it's looking like what's happening here because we don't have any terms yet that are relevant. Of course, I haven't listened to that. I do hear the word science, right? So she was a botanist. She did play with plants. So.
We were asking a lot about the indigo too as we were kind of walking across right here, you know, what made her riches,
Okay.
stuff like that as well.
Nice.
So
Well, that's good stuff. So,
maybe it was just a little delayed.
well, and it usually happens. We could get an answer specific to this location an hour from now.
Dense.
But that happens all the time too. Sometimes I'll get the maiden name, and it's obviously very specific to her. It's not going to be relative to anybody else that I'm talking about tonight. So it is like, oh, we're only half a mile away. Okay, we'll take it, Eliza. Thanks. That's why, like, this is such a, like, it's not a long walk. We're literally only going to go 0.6 miles. But we're going to stop in places like this and check things out, talk about the history, what happened here, so forth and so on. That way, it's all relevant. If something pops up, it's still, oh, we're only 0.3 miles away? Okay, I'll take it. Big John wanted to give me a jersey number. Makes sense. You know what I mean? So that's why I do this tour the way it's set up, the way that it is. So that way it's not like, oh, we're 4 miles away, and now John wants to tell me his number. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem relevant, does it? So at that point, it's coincidence. So I don't want coincidences. I want, you know, the literal meaning of things.
Yeah. 25.
Okay, we'll take it.
Still.
Still dense, still science.
I'm pretty dense, but
Come on, Eliza, tell us the name of your daughter.
belt.
Eliza, what was your maiden name?
I think I just heard it. It was really weird, but it was like, it sounded like it at least.
I heard like a weird skip, I couldn't tell.
Yeah, her maiden name was Lucas. So again, it's one of those points where I'll have to double check it. I don't want to give, I didn't hear it specifically, but I'm like, that really sounded close.
Eliza, how old were you when you died?
Eliza, you want to tell us how old you were when you died?
Whoa.
Oh, I thought you said whoa, like you had something
Yeah, I was
specific.
like,
That's what I did. What?
Like, wait a minute, what do you got?
I almost thought it worked for a second.
Oh, there we go. A little bit of activity. Alright, these folks are going to be coming to the vehicle, so let's kind of move over this way. Cart. Activity back here, huh? Of course, we're pretty close to some wires, but I don't know that it would be getting that close.
Elijah, how old were you when you got married?
Give us a little bit of volume.
Eliza, how old were you when you married Charles?
Nothing else after flow.
Pleasure.
Still pretty vague.
Eliza, what president carried you to your final resting place?
Love it. Here we are, the whole question. Come on, Eliza, give us something. We've asked you a lot of questions tonight. Make that determination. That didn't sound good. No EMF at all. Come on, Eliza. We had a couple of little spikes here and there. That 25 is pretty prominent. You know the normal K2 meters that they use on TV, the one that they're very sensitive? Those ones only go up to 25 milligauss. I've seen your spike at 116. So that kind of tells you, like, I have one of those, but it measures, it's very sensitive. So if the lightest thing touches it, it spikes and goes crazy. And it's cool to hand a little kid for the blinky lights. But again, I want something a little bit more accurate, which is what you have. So the fact that we still had a 25 marker, they've never done an archaeological dig here. There's no ley lines underneath us, there's no electrical or anything in here. There's no reason why it should go off at all. It should be at a flat zero the whole way. But the fact that you had some readings is a good sign. You had a couple of, little REM pod things that you were moving. It was hard to tell if it was your step. So again, it's kind of touch and go with that. You just never know what it's actually going to come up with. I'm going to give her another minute, and then I'm going to start spouting off some answers to you guys. Otherwise, you're going to start getting bored by listening to this box all night long in one spot. See how, like, when you jostle it a little bit, it gets a little sensitive?
Eliza, what color was your house?
if there's anybody here with us, what is your name? Focusing on Eliza, maybe somebody
Yeah,
else.
and that happens all the time too, because sometimes Charles likes to pop up.
I was thinking we are where the slave quarters were.
Unfortunately,
maybe
this is stuff I
somebody
can't
we've never heard
prove.
of.
Yeah, this is stuff I can't prove, though. Unfortunately. Crazy. Last night's full moon. Normally my full moon nights aren't like super active. They just aren't. It's a new moon that gives me more activity. Last night they had tons. I mean, just tons of it from last night. And I was like, what the hell, new full moon? You know, I even told them like, don't expect much. You know, because it's full moon.
Right.
Lo and behold, they had a ton of activity. All right, so let me kind of give you the answers on what's going on here. So,
Speculate.
speculate. Still kind of vague. Again, not very specific enough for me. Beep beep. So, the mansion burned down in the Great Fire of 1861. So I always listen for the number 61, smoke, fire, cloud, any of those kind of things that tell us about fire. You're going to hear about a lot of great fires in Charleston. There's tons of them. So this one happened to go from Peninsula Coast to Peninsula Coast. The house just happened to be in the way. You asked what color the house was, we'll never know because the only pictures we have of the mansion are after it burned down, and they are sketches. So it's not even an actual photograph. It was 1861. So Eliza was 70 years old when she died. So 70 was the number we were looking for there. She died in Philadelphia from breast cancer. So cancer, and you're probably thinking, how the hell can that be? This was 1793 when she died. There was no such thing as breast cancer yet. We're going based off her medical records. So cancer likes to show itself a lot here too. It's also where she's buried. So if that doesn't answer the question of why we don't go to cemeteries, you're going to go to the places that you love rather than hang out by your gravesite. That's hopefully answers that question of why we're not actually going to cemeteries and walking through them. We go to places people love. So she's buried up there. Any guesses on the president now that you know the year? It was 1793 when she passed away.
I don't know nothing about presidents.
Come on, Serge, you got this. Nope.
1793. Jackson? No.
Washington.
Washington.
George Washington. So the nephew was a governor for the state. And obviously the president knew his governors pretty well since there was only 13 of them. So again, he knew the Pinckney family really well. So once he seen what Eliza did for this country, it was a proud moment for him to be able to carry her to her grave. So the terms I normally listen for here: Wood, Apple, Martha, obviously Washington himself, George. George is, I have to kind of play with that. Just like I told you there was 3 Charleses here, there's 3 Georges. So we have George the president, we have George the son. The son is the one that didn't make it past infancy. So he was an infant when he died. And I told you about that tragedy, that's what it was. And that George, the son, was named after her father. So, it's 3 Georges. So I always need that second piece to tell me which George we're talking to. The maiden name was Lucas, like I said. So ironically, Eliza's father's name was George Lucas. So take that for what it's worth. It's just kind of like, all right, something a little bit more modern. I'm not talking about mid-colonial times anymore. The first wife, her maiden name was Lamb. So Eliza Lamb Pinckney, just like the animal. So these are all answers I've gotten in the past, and usually repeatedly, because they pretty much come here 6 nights a week. They know what I'm about to ask. Maybe tonight she was just a little sick of my teams asking the same questions. So we just never know. We also don't know all of the things that came out of there. We're also in open air. It's going to be much easier to hear on your computer, your phone, your car speaker, that kind of thing. So I'll give you some audio markers once I go through all of the audio. We're not done yet, so don't think I'm closing it up. The next place that we go to is, it's about 3.5-4 blocks away. It's called Lodge Alley. So it is a quick pass-through. It is a quiet area, so listen to your spirit box along the way there, but once we reach the alley, it's definitely shut it down because it's quiet. There's a hotel right next to it. But we definitely want to keep an eye on that. I want you guys to be listening and watching for names. I'm not going to tell you which names or why. And I'm not going to tell you what gender they are either. So kind of explain that once we get there. Were there any other questions that I had you guys ask that I didn't give you the answers to? I'm trying to think. I think I've covered them all.
What was the daughter's name?
Oh, Harriet.
Harriet.
There were 4 children total. So we have obviously Charles and George, but we also had Thomas. Last night, Thomas gave us a couple of clues that he was here because he actually had a leg shatter in a battle. So we had his political party, and we had the word knee show on it. So to my knowledge, he actually got shot in the side of the leg by his kneecap, which shattered his leg. So that was in the Battle of Camden. So again, it just depends, like you said. It might always be Eliza. I always give you those poking questions to Eliza, but sometimes Charles wants to pop up and tell me his birthday, so forth and so on. Yesterday was actually the anniversary of Eliza's death. So she died on May 26th, 1793. So just before her 71st birthday in December, which was December 28th. So I always kind of can't wait for that date too. Yesterday, that might have been a reason why we had all the activity here yesterday too, is because it was the anniversary of her death. So again, take that for what it's worth, not to mention it was a full moon, so it was kind of like a double whammy for me. The Lodge Alley is interesting. Everybody's got comfortable shoes on. I looked. Just be careful when we get down here. Those cobblestones are uneven. You could probably shut your REM pod off on the way there, just because it's going to go crazy and drive people nuts. And your EMF will probably go a little crazy too, because of the parking meters. Those ley lines are underneath the sidewalks. They're strong enough to make that EMF go off. So even if you start getting a little wavering sound, a little waver in the numbers, probably doesn't mean anything. We're going to be walking on a pretty busy street. So, questions, comments, concerns?
No.
Serge had it. And the funny, a lot of people actually ask about the color of the house here. And I don't know the answer. The only thing I've gotten out of this was yellow. And I've had that come up a couple of times, but still I don't have the proof to be able to say it was yellow. So, it is what it is. I was waiting for the color yellow to show up again. I'm like, okay, we'll see if yellow shows up. Alright, let's go take a hike. Is that dude off the wall? Good. Alright. I don't like to interrupt those guys' break. They come over from the restaurant. And they just want to come over here.
Mm-hmm.
You guys should be glad you came down when you did, because it's going to get hotter.
Yeah, it was. It turned out pretty good.
So what part of Cleveland are you guys at?
Bedford.
Okay. I actually lived in Independence for a little while.
Okay, so yeah, you. Very nice area.
And you know where Romito's Pizza is?
Yeah.
On Bresville Road? I lived above it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, I used to run the movie store. You know where Tower City is, obviously.
Yeah.
So there used to be a music store with a 57 Chevy in the front window,
Mhm.
down in the basement.
Okay.
There was a movie store in the back of it. I used to run the movie store.
Huh.
Small world.
Yeah.
And then I worked at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the same company.
Oh, okay, okay.
That'd have been a cool job.
It was a cool job. It was many moons ago when I first got out of high school. Many, like there were still record stores. So that movie store that I ran was the only, I wouldn't say the only, it was the first store in Cleveland to actually have DVDs.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So as we were getting the DVD rollout ready, going from VHS and Laserdisc, I still had Laserdiscs there. Do you guys know what Laserdiscs are?
Mm-hmm. Huh. That is pretty.
They at least teach something in Tower City.
What's it look like now? I haven't been down there.
About like a year or so ago, they said they were gonna take out like most of the stores and put in some kind of business. And
Yeah.
everything.
Wow.
There's not many shops left. And then on top of that,
There's
Ohio
a casino
has.
there now.
Yep, the
Yeah.
casino, the Jack Casino. So there's that. There's Wahlburgers right underneath the casino.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know you guys had one of those up there.
yep, it opened like I think a year or two ago.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah,
relatively new.
Yeah, I know that business is actually doing pretty well.
Mm.
I just read an article about that. I'll wait to see what this car does. Of course, they're turning. Are they turning this way? Let's forget. You guys are in Bedford. Parma Heights Mall. Is that still there? Parma?
No, the Parma Mall, no, that's gone. Yeah,
Yeah, so I worked in that store for a little while too. Same company. And then they moved me down to Rolling Acres Mall in Akron. And I know that's been pretty much a ghost town for forever.
right. Then there was Amazon's done a lot of work in the area.
Really?
Yeah, they opened up an Amazon. You know, Warrensville, North Randall,
Yeah.
kind of area.
Yep.
Thistledown.
Yeah.
Right across the street from Thistledown, the old North Randall Mall. They tore that completely down to the ground, and they put an Amazon warehouse there,
Really?
like one of the big warehouses. So
Because I know they actually opened up an Amazon store in Chicago area. Do you guys still have that Amazon store? Yeah, because they only opened up like 4 of them, I thought. So.
This is the kind of generic alley would seem like your dreams. It's a very much stereotypical alley.
Still cool.
very cool. Mhm.
So, when we crossed over that last crosswalk, Charleston used to be a walled city, and so it was called Charlestown. It was named after King Charles. So we are now inside the original walled city. This was one of the first streets we ever had. The reason why I was asking you to listen for names, did you hear anything? Okay. The names I normally get are Benjamin and John. Sounds very generic, but Benjamin and John were 2 out of the 5 people that lived here in 1801. These giant buildings you see on the left and right of you weren't here. So people used to live here, little shotgun houses, considered lower class. The Charlestown Wall was actually across the street from the street we were just on, East Bay Street. So all the buildings you see down there at the edge, blocking the water, those weren't there. So the smell of low tide was coming through here quite often. If you haven't smelled low tide yet, it's nasty. But these people were lower class, and they did find that out through some of the silverware and tools that they found in between the cobblestones we're walking on. So this is a very interesting alley. I just like to do a quick stop here because Benjamin and John do show up from time to time. Did you get any names on yours?
Nope, no names.
What do you got?
I've got talk, escape, and rage.
Okay, not good.
Environmental.
Environment. But yeah, this is an interesting alley too because this is also where the Masonic Lodge was for Charlestown. So we get the name Mason here a lot. So that makes sense completely. That's also why it's called Lodge Alley. It was a Masonic Lodge. The yellow building that's over here, that's actually Lodge Alley Inn. Every hotel in downtown Charleston has a claim of a ghost of some sort. None of them give me free rooms to verify. So next year on the podcast, the wife and I have already planned one weekend every week. We're going to probably have to stay in one of these rooms to figure out what's actually happening. So that way I have more podcast episodes and we can actually get the truth out there. So as we walk through the rest of this alley, we're going to be in a neighborhood. It's definitely a no spirit box zone. We're going to be 5 friends just cutting through, kind of like what we're doing here. tour guides aren't allowed to be tour guides in neighborhoods. So until we get to our next spot, which is going to be our legends and lore portion, I'm going to give you those extra kind of folklore stories before we do our last final investigation, like what we did at the Pinckney Mansion site. So that last final site's pretty kick-ass. Hopefully some things will come through for us, more so than the Pinckney Mansion site. I'm not going to lie to you, the Pinckney Mansion site was light tonight, like really light. You know, again, I told you I'm not going to lie to you guys about anything. I'm not here to hype things up. Again, your baseline should have, all of this should have been to hear some weird stories like Big John and Pinckney's, but to learn how to use these devices of the things you're using tonight. So again, I'm not trying to make this sound like a much better tour than what it's actually turning out to be, but at the same token, I should have laid out those ground rules ahead of time, which is normally what I do. This is an interesting spot. Last night I didn't get any pictures from here. This was the spot that I skipped last night, but once we walked away, we actually started getting a few things that were relatable to it. So it's kind of like, all right, let me make sure I include it back in tonight and see what happens. So we're going to see what happens as we come across. I do have that full list of names of every resident that's ever lived here. So if the names pop up, that's a possibility. I don't have it memorized, but if Sarah's on there, you will have that list, because I'll give you the link to it and tell you what page to turn to so you can see the archaeological dig paperwork that they did. It's like 200 pages, but I tell you which specific page to go to. But there's a lot of evidence of fires here too, so sometimes we get things about fire and smoke here, just like at the Pinckney Mansion site. So let's continue walking. Let's see what else we can go find out. So walking through that page, I try to answer all questions. First thing you see is my podcast. That's all questions. Which is going to split on pages. That's the same name as the course, so we're going to send it to you. That's actually how all of this started. So before this was a tour from the train downtown, it was mostly a ghost hunt when I had a reader. Where to find all my books, where to leave a read, where to get all of this devices and stuff that I actually use and all the apps. So I forgot about the apps all the time. The apps that I trust, I have them all listed there. And there's free versions of all of them. So some of that stuff on a side, sure. You can make a commission if you buy a spare box from my link. Affiliate. You gotta eat too.
I'm gonna buy one. I'll make sure it's for me.
The podcast, yeah, I get like a penny per listen. I gotta eat, so it all adds up. But at the same time, like, there's more episodes coming in September. I just hired a co-host, and I'm wrapping up a master's degree. So I want to get that done. I have 5 investigations in my desk right now, but I haven't even gone through the data yet. So once I get those up and running, get her trained to be on the radio. She's actually from the past season. So yeah, she practices in many, it's pretty much in every state. So she's just part of the South Carolina division. She's super knowledgeable, great at research. She just doesn't know as much about the history portion of the house as I do. So I gotta get her kind of up to speed, get her used to being on a microphone, that kind of thing. But she's got that southern twang voice, which is usually what draws people to paranormal stuff. I don't know why. My wife is obviously like, whatever. You bring her into your office, I don't care. You know, it's like, oh, my wife doesn't have a voice for it.
Yeah.
I just flat out told her, I'm like, you don't have a radio.
You gotta have your voice or something like that. Yeah, I mean, we go on like long trips. We'll drive to like concerts or something, and we'll just play that instead of music. Right. Or just listen to like some podcast, true crime video out there.
Lately, some people are starting to recognize like, what I'm actually doing. I was just interviewed, I listen to Hillbilly Horror Stories, but they interviewed me about the tour, because he's coming down here in September, and that's 2 months to take tour. So I'm actually doing an investigation in Florida the week before that, at the St. Augustine Lighthouse. But Graveyard Tales is kind of one of my favorites. Graveyard Tales is just 2 hillbilly guys that they have fun with, and that's what I love about them. They're having fun. It's not just this scary whatever, blah blah blah. You know, they have fun. They talk about cryptids, they talk about weird phenomena all the time. Like, they're just really cool guys. They're fun to listen to. But they've mentioned me a couple of times on the show. It's just nice to actually be recognized and see it. You know what I mean? They do something really different. And as you can see, what we do is scary. It's not what I want. So what's the relationship here? Okay. Like I just asked them, I don't know what to assume.
Yeah.
doing our one-on-one. Alright, so we're just stop here. So, see, you came here to work and I'm giving you a break. I'm a good employer, rather. Alright, so, did you guys, I know we were all chatting. Oh, you weren't chatting because you don't say much. Did you guys notice the really gorgeous alley that we walked past?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, Serge.
He got it.
He's got it. He's on it. So that's actually the alley right behind you. That's known as Philadelphia Alley, but it used to be called Dueler's Alley. First off, let me see what words you have on your list, because there's like 15 stories here. I like for that to dictate what we have going on here. Entry, noon. Got nothing. Maybe the entrance? I don't know. I talk more about an exit. So the funny thing is do you guys see the wall behind you? There's a doorway right in the middle of it. You guys see that back there?
Yeah.
So that alley used to be called Dueler's Alley because that's where all the duels occurred for Charleston. So the loser, if there was one, the dead guy, they would pick him up and they would bring him through that doorway, the exit, and they would carry him over the courtyard, over to the cemetery, drop the body, and then go celebrate the winner. That's kind of how it went down. However, we all talk about the same duel. I want to see if anything pops up because I get a lot from this story. I can't take you down there because it's residential. The same rules apply. I used to take people down there and got in a lot of trouble. We won't talk about that. So, yeah. And I did it for over a year. And then I got caught. Because my grips are noisy. But anyway, so the duel that we all talk about was about a doctor. His name was Joseph Brown Ladd. He moved down here from Rhode Island because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. The attorney that was handling that money said, send the doctor away. He's just after your money. He moves from Rhode Island to Charleston. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. Remember, this was a medical student. He's dressed pretty well, so it looks like he's got some money. So, with that said, somebody walking by sees what's going on. His name is Ralph Isaacs. Ironically, he has the same initials as to where the doctor came from, Rhode Island, Ralph Isaacs. So he sees what's going on and says, let me take you somewhere safe. You don't want to stay here. Takes him to 59 Church Street. That's a number that pops up here often. We're on Church Street, about a mile down the road that way. Him and Ralph are now friends. Okay, so but the doctor's practice starts to take off. He's making lots of money, he's got lots of patients, everything's going well. Amanda's moving down soon. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. So you can Google the Whistling Doctor, get a very long detailed version of this story. So with that said, him and Ralph used to go see plays together, but because the doctor made so much more money, he got better seats. So they couldn't sit next to each other. So they had to talk about the plays on the way home. One night they go see William III. They're talking about the play. The doctor loves the new actress. Ralph doesn't. They start arguing. It turns into an insult party on the doctor's fiance back home. Do you guys see how ridiculous that tour looks over there? Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's a ghost tour?
I'm digging our little group over here.
Yeah.
So even when I have my groups of 10, they all still question. Like, they do the exact same thing. And I hate to point it out because they're my competitors and whatever. Let's face it, I don't have a lot of friends in this industry. So anyway, where was I? So they go their separate ways because Ralph was insulting his fiance. Ralph goes home and he calls up his buddies at the newspaper. He's a local, so he has friends at the newspaper. He says, I'm going to put an ad in. We're going to tell the city of Charleston what a disgrace the doctor is. He takes all our money, he's not from here, he's not a local, yada yada. The doctor sees the ad, rebuttals with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. Let's settle this once and for all. So they come down, they take their 20 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. However, Ralph still has his one shot. He puts it in the kneecap. Sorry, I'm not trying to kill you, right? You're just in front of me. He puts it in the kneecap of the doctor. So he didn't die and come through the death gate. His friends pick him up and they carry him home to 59 Church Street. He dies 10 days later, probably from bleeding out, because that's what you did in the 1800s. It bled out up in a bullet. So they say as you walk through the alley, you can hear the whistles of the doctor. This was a great place for people to say, I say, turn the spirit boxes down, you're going to listen to your audios. Let me lead, I'm going to stay away from spirit boxes. Obviously, didn't always listen, I got in trouble, we don't go down there anymore. Very cool alley, gorgeous alley. It also used to be called Cow Alley, before it was called Dueler's Alley, because that's where all the livestock was kept for the city of Charlestown. Again, we're inside the Charlestown walls. Lots of stories are going on here. Do you have any other words that are popping up? I know which story
About
you're telling.
maze and happiness.
We can go with happiness. We'll just call that the inspiration. It's really vague, but we'll go with it. You guys see the big church?
Yeah.
See the burning gas lamp off in the distance there?
Mm-hmm.
That's the pirate house. Call it the pirate house. It has a big anchor on the front. You can't miss it. So if you guys are walking around town, somebody lives there. Don't go in his backyard. He gets mad. Don't ask me how I know. I know, right? So, but that's where Blackbeard's men would come in off their ships. They'd have a few drinks. They would stay. Meet with the ladies. But they dug a tunnel from the pirate house 1 block over. What's that?
Drunk.
Yeah. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
Nice. We'll take it.
There's
Sounds drunk.
fits around here if you like.
Yeah, that definitely fits a pirate story.
Especially back then.
No. So it's still got a lot of really cool stories. But anyway, but they would go over there to work in between, bartering with the locals in between. Why would they go to this old theater to go work? Because pirates had really good knots. So they would be working behind the stage. So again, they went there for a couple extra bucks. But the reason why I tell you this is because you need to know where Dock Street Theater is, because of the story with the church. There was a young lady that worked at the church. She was past the marrying age of 17. Nobody wanted her. She was 23 years old. I know. I told you about Eliza getting married at 22. Oh, did I give you those ages? I did not. See, you guys were supposed to tell me this. She was 22 when she got married. Charles was 45. Just so you guys know. But Nettie.
I don't feel so bad.
What's that?
I'm 23. I'm like, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah. So Nettie's 23. Nobody wants her. So she sees pouring going on down there because it was a poorhouse, a playhouse, and a hotel. It was called Planters before it was Dock Street Theater. So she puts on a red dress. She goes down there to get a job so she can feel wanted. She gets the job and she's the best loved girl in the whole place. But she's still not happy. See the wrong happiness? So she's about to the second story balcony and ponders about coming back to the church. Well, there was a wrought iron banister that she used to lean on while she was out there. Keep that in mind. The priest sees her. He goes down there one night to go try to convince her to come back to the church. Storm rolls in, lightning strikes the banister that she's leaned on, and strikes her dead. Now, very abrupt story, but the interesting thing is, I know you like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, wow.
Here's the cool thing. You can see Mary's ghost, Mary.
Hi.
You could see Nettie's ghost from the knees up only. Why is that? Because when we renovated Dock Street Theater, we raised the first floor ceiling. So she's walking on the second floor that she knows. So that's why you can see it from the knees up. The other significant thing about her ghost that's been seen is that will not be good. Because that's where we're going next. Yeah, we're going to chill for a
Stay
few.
away from where that car is. I don't know where that car is.
So, when I say somebody saw a ghost or an apparition, what do you think of? Something white, misty, right, kind of thing? They say you can see Nettie in color with that red dress. So, again, it's been multiple times. I don't have any proof of it. We'll see what happens. I got to go in there with some of my updated equipment that you guys are holding tonight and see what actually happened. You can tour it during the daytime. It's empty, and I've seen a couple of plays in there. So I usually take a K2 meter or something simple where I'm not going to, interrupt my, my play watching. But we'll see what happens in the next year or so when I go back. I can tell another story while we're waiting on them to be done yakking. It's going to be great audio for you guys. I can't wait. I heard someone throwing up in the background, Nick. About an hour and 15 minutes in. So normally everybody goes up to the church. All the ghost tours, which I was really surprised that that giant one you guys just saw didn't go straight there. That's why I kind of took a step backwards, because I expected them to go straight up there. They all tell the same story because they need sights to see. We're using tools. We're trying to find the sights to see. But the story that they tell is pretty simple. Right inside the gate to the cemetery, there's a sign that says, "There's no ghost at St. Philip's but the Holy Ghost." There's a reason for it. It's not just because they wanted, whatever, the ghost tours not to go there. It's almost a reason for us to go there. 1887. Sorry, 1888. That was mixed up. 1888, a young lady dies. Her name is Sue Howard Hardy. 6 days after her stillborn child, she dies from heartbreak, obviously. 1987, let's see where I got the 7 problem from. 1987, 99 years later, we have a local photographer in town. He's taking pictures of all the cemeteries. He captures a full apparition, a white misty woman wearing a shawl with a baby basket next to her over that grave. You got mom? Nuts. Okay. So, here's the thing about the picture. This is 1987. I don't know how old any of you are. You said, except for Mary, she put it out there. She was 23. But you guys look pretty young. This guy sends it off to Kodak. Do you guys know what Kodak is? Okay. Some people don't. It's an old company that no longer exists. But he sends it to Kodak because he can't figure it out. We don't have cell phones and technology that we have now. So they can't debunk the picture either. However, the picture's cursed. Females that hold it Same symptoms I told you about back at Big John's. Headache, nauseous, dizziness, that kind of thing. Don't hold the damn picture. Pregnant females, you're probably not going to have a good pregnancy. I don't show you this picture now that we have mom, and I'm going to have to give you that link so you guys remember the story and get a link back to it. There will be a warning in front of the link. Do not click this picture while using your cell phone. Something along those lines. This is the heated warning picture. I'm a very superstitious person, as I'm sure you guys can imagine. So again, if you're one of the ladies here, don't be using it on your cell phone. Okay? It's a cool picture. It's like gold for guys like me because you cannot debunk this photo. It's impossible.
Better to view on a computer then?
Computer's fine. Or if he wants to look it up and he shows it to you, that's cool too. Just don't handle the picture.
Guinea pig.
So that's kind of the rule, even digitally. So, and the article I'll send you will kind of put that warning in there too, but it's right next to the picture. They put it right there.
Looks like they're circling back to be able to do that.
Look at that. Perfect. We're going to go across the street. We're done here. Alright, so there are two different sides to the cemetery. So the eastern side that we were just on, that's for native Charlestonians only. Everybody else comes to this side. That's why I kind of like to go to this against this wall. Not that I'm testing if anybody's going to get sick, but you're going to. I've had people get dizzy here. This is for everybody else. John Calhoun, your 17th vice president, he's buried on this side. They had no idea which side he was supposed to go to. They weren't sure if he was from here or not, so they just moved his sarcophagus a couple of times across the street until they figured it out. So every ghost tour will tell you that story. They make it a little bit more elaborate, so now you know the real deal. Hey, don't think this lady has a clue where she's going. Just don't smack the tree. Ooh, that's a wide turn.
Jeez.
Oh boy. Alright, so here's the last story we're going to be diving ourselves into. And this guy, he's better not come over here. I'm not dealing with that right now. He's usually hanging around last minute. By the way, this is 79 Cumberland, so we're going to spend about 15 minutes here. I don't know if you want to text or call your ride, but we got about, what time is it? Yeah, we got about 15 minutes or so here, so maybe even longer, depending on what happens. Hopefully Mary's going to get something. The powder magazine, which is a building over there with the crosses on it, those aren't crosses, first off. Those are earthquake bolts. So they're just behind earthquake bolts. You could tighten them up if the building gets quaked again, and it'll straighten the building right back up again. They're on strong bolts. Doesn't work, but it's a nice concept. Those are the very first earthquake bolts that Charlestown put in. Actually, it would have been Charleston at that point, because it was after 1886. But the reason why they did that is because that's the oldest government building on the East Coast. It's the gunpowder magazine for Charlestown. It was finished in 1713. I told you guys about the Charlestown Wall when we were over at Lodge Alley. This is the street where the wall came up. So it went up about half a block past the powder magazine instead of going south towards the battery. It's literally tucked into the corner of where the wall was. The reason for that is because it's 3 blocks away from the water. It's got gunpowder in it. Okay, so if it gets attacked by some kind of ship, by cannonball, those walls are 32 inches thick, so approximately this big. It's going to have a hard time getting through from three blocks away. But if it does, there's sand in the roof. The gist behind it is if it gets through and the gunpowder blows up, it's going to blow that sand up in the air, and it's supposed to fall and put out the fire. Well, that shit don't work either. We had another powder magazine close to the peninsula of Charleston, and it did get attacked. The sand went up and was unable to put out the fire. The whole building burned to the ground. So the reason why this story that we're here is because this is, again, the oldest building, but we had somebody travel here during the time that this building was being built that's very prominent in pirate history. So if you're into pirates, I'm not. I had to be for this story once I lost Philadelphia Alley. However, I've read a ton of books about this particular story. I'm only going to tell you the things that were common among the books that I read. So again, there's a lot of holes here. This is where you guys get to ask whatever you want to. So, Mary, I keep saying Mary. Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland. Follow me on this one. It's a little bit of a twist. You with me? Okay. She moves here with her dad and his mistress, who happens to be her mom, to get away from his wife. You guys with me? Pissed off wife, finds out he's cheating, has a kid by her, they move here. Okay. This is 1708, by the way. You move halfway across the world to get away from your scorned wife. How mad was this woman? So, there's a lot of twists in here. So once they move here, obviously Anne's pretty young. I would say she's probably about 12, maybe 13. She, sees the building being finished in 1713. She's now a teenager. 1714, 1715, we have pirates coming through town. She falls in love. This guy's name is James Bonny. Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. She doesn't care. She runs away with James Bonny to Jamaica. They get married. Anne Cormac is now Anne Bonny. So keep in mind, even though your spirit box has been off for a good minute, I'm going to be listening to a good portion of this. So, and you should too. But anyway, so Anne Bonny, once they get down, she realizes that James isn't the pirate that she wanted. She wanted the kick-ass Captain Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp kind of guy, right? This is not this guy. This guy's a privateer, which basically makes him a spy for the British. So this isn't cool. He's a coward. So she's a kick-ass pirate. At least she wants to be. So she falls in love again. This guy's name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. Much cooler name. He's much younger. He's got his own ship. He tries to buy the dowry from James Bonny, and he refused. So she's just going to have an affair, and James Bonny doesn't care. Whatever. He already knows that she's whoring around anyway. So, I know, right? Who cares? So he stays married. I don't know what the reason would have been, but she wants to be part of Calico Jack's ship. Females curse pirate ships. He says, you can be on my ship, but you're going to dress like a guy. She's okay with that. The cross-dressing bit. Why? Because Dad used to hide her as a little boy to keep her away from his wife when they were over in Ireland. So she's used to all that cross-dressing. She don't care. She gets it. She just wants to be on a pirate ship. She's allowed to be a female in his quarters. So guess what? She eventually gets pregnant, of course, right? So you can't have a pregnant dude on the ship. So he drops her off in Cuba with some friends and says, go have the baby, come back, we'll figure it out. She has a baby, she comes back, no baby. We have no idea what happened to that child. She's also dressed like a female. She doesn't give a damn anymore about hiding her gender, which makes Jack pretty angry. He captured another pirate crew while she was away trying to have this baby. So she goes down below deck and she's going to flirt with these guys. We're on guy number 3, in case you want to count. James Bonny, Jack, and now this new guy. So she starts flirting with this guy. He reveals his gender to be a female, pretending to be a male, to be part of a pirate crew that Calico Jack already captured. So, again, a lot of tongue twisters in this one. So, her name was Mary Read. That's why I keep saying Mary. So, Mary Read and Anne Bonny become friends. She convinces Mary to become part of the crew. And we now have 2 female pirates on the same ship. Unheard of during these times. It was 1719, 1720. So, what happens from there is the British fleet comes to attack the ship. They find out the location, and it's the entire British fleet. They've been after Jack for a while. Obviously, it's Anne Bonny and Mary Read are the only ones that can fight back because the other pirates are down below deck watching the other pirate crew, and they're all drunk. So, obviously, the ship gets captured. 2 females against the whole British fleet, not going to work. So, they hurry up and they tuck their hair back in their hats, and they're going to try to reveal their gender to the judge, and hopefully he'll have mercy. That doesn't happen. So the pirate crew that was down below deck, including Jack, they all get tried and hung pretty quickly. So they're gone. They go in front of the judge. His name was Nicholas Laws. So if my name pops up somewhere, we know now what. With that said, they reveal their gender. The judge doesn't care. He's still going to try and hang them. He's like, I don't care, but you plead our bellies, which basically means they were both claiming to be pregnant. He's like, all right, I guess we just delay your hanging. Go back to jail. Dad's still here in Charleston. He has enough money from Ireland to bail her out of the Jamaican jail. He brings Anne Bonny back here. Again, her name is still Anne Bonny. What we know from there, from the books that I've read, is that she remarried again, guy number 4, has 4 kids. Is that a spider? Yep. Guy number 4 has 4 children and dies at the age of 84. Why we have no other details, I don't know. Some versions say that she moved to Virginia. Others say that she stayed here. This building is obviously something familiar to her. But what happened to Mary? Mary asks. Did you guys see what he did there? No. So, Mary died in the Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. So it was probably bumpy, gross, oozing, whatever. Poor lady. It was about a year later. We don't know if they were actually pregnant. We have no idea what happened with these ladies. So this is a spot where you get to ask anything you want to. Some good questions. Name of Anne Bonny's mother, because I never told you what that was. I do know the answer to that. The name of Calico Jack's ship. So those are the only 2 questions that I'll kind of like give you. I'm giving you the Calico Jack ship question because I've yet to hear the answer here, and I'm hoping to. So again, do what you want here. We're going to stay on this side of the powder magazine because again, I see a couple other tours floating around. We don't want to interrupt them. Other tours like to stop here. So if they do, we simply move to the back over here and kind of stay out of their way. let them tell their story. They'll be gone within a minute or two. These are apartments back here. Your spirit box, audible to the two of you only, or if you guys are going to stay together as a group again, like you've been doing. Just kind of nice to see, actually. Normally my groups are like, they're all spread out. But I get some weird flickers from the camera here. So we'll kind of see what happens. And when I say flickers, it's like white flickers over somebody holding a spirit box, and then their spirit box quits. So I've seen that happen twice now in the past, I'd say 3 months. So we'll see if it happens again. I don't like for my equipment to fail, but when it does, it's like, okay. So for example, was it Saturday night? Pinckney Mansion site, my audio died. The digital camera died that I use for using on the laser grids, and then the spirit box died, all in the same location. These are rechargeable devices. These two right here, actually all 3 of them, are all rechargeable. I don't pull this stuff off the chargers until I leave the house to come meet you guys. There was no reason, and I double check everything. So it all died in the same spot. Not at the same time, but at the same spot. So within a 15 to 20 minute time period. All right, get that thing cranked up. Let's see what we can find. Get your REM pod going.
What have you found so far?
Yeah, let's see what you got.
Ashes, funeral, persist.
I like the mom bit. Even though that probably wouldn't have been a term they used back in 1888. Possibly, but doubtful. I mean, it's obviously the same meaning. So that's probably our strongest thing that we have so far. But yeah, let's get closer to that powder magazine. Let's see what we can capture. I will tell you with the EMF, this is normally a dead zone. So if you get any kind of spike at all, something else is going to be going on. Just so you know, see what we're moving.
Yeah, it's moving. Real low, like 0.5.
It's going to be high because there's electrical wires just beyond those trees. So don't get excited if you happen to go to that corner. I'm like, oh my God, it's 18. There's nothing here. That was cool. Waiting for more. And Bonnie, are you here? We need to know. Tell us whatever you want to.
More?
More what?
And Bonnie, can you tell me what your mom's name was? Your mother's name? Probably give us a tad bit more volume. Or fire.
That's slabs too.
And Bonnie, tell me your mother's name. Ironically, it's one of your names. It's not Sergio.
That'd be 100% shocked if it ended up being Kendra. There's never more than one of us.
Never know. Just watching to see where that group's going. I'll go with friend. Go ahead and turn it down a little bit. We don't want to take away from that tour. Again, they already don't like me. What do you got? Pop.
Pop.
Is that what you guys call soda?
Yeah. Soda.
I called it soda when I lived up there too, but I talk to family now and they all say pop. It drives me nuts. Like they don't know what that is down there. You can't say pop down there. They don't know what it is. You can't order a pop.
I could see that.
Yeah, they have no idea what it is. Did you get anything else before that?
Says that?
No. Okay. So another term that I look for here is the term dog, because Anne Bonnie's last words to Calico Jack were, "You should have fought more like a man instead of going down like a dog." So I've gotten the word dog here a couple of times. I know, she's a pretty badass chick. If you're a pirate person, Netflix just put out this amazing documentary, and it didn't even feel like watching a documentary. It was called The Lost Kingdom of Pirates. It was amazing. It was a 6-part series, and it told a lot about the Charleston pirates. So Steve Bonnet was in there, Blackbeard was in there. He was not from Charleston, of course, but he made a few stops here. Let's see. I mean, obviously the Anne Bonny bit is in there. The Mary Read story is in there. That the Anne Bonny part is. So it's very interesting.
What's it called?
The Lost Kingdom of Pirates.
Lost Kingdom of Pirates. Okay.
Really cool stuff. Surprise! Let's get something more prominent here. It's just weird because I was actually excited for tonight because I had so much from last night. I'm like, oh, it's just going to continue in the same phase of the moon.
What was the other? Mary what?
Mary Read, like you
Read.
read a book,
Mm-hmm.
same spell.
What was the name of the ship you and Mary were on?
Say you're right, is what I heard. Hey, EMF. Let's move over here. See if we get. Technically, like, there's a lamppost over there. I don't want that to influence.
And Bonnie, what did you like about this building so much?
I don't think that it's so much that she liked the building. It's just familiar. I mean, it's 300 years old. And it was being built at the time she moved here. So Dad had a farm thing. He was an attorney over in Ireland, but when he moved here, he realized they didn't need attorneys in Charlestown. So he became a farmer in the Georgetown area, which is about an hour and a half north of here, but he used to send her down here to do the business. So while he was tending to the farm, she would basically bring a horse and buggy down here and sell whatever they were growing. So whether it was cotton or whatever, rice maybe, I don't know. I never got the full detail. But that's why she would just recognize the building, because let's face it, look at the garage across the street. I mean, that thing's less than 100 years old. You know, even this building behind it, you could see where there was, you know, another building was part of it. But this building has been numerous things. It was just originally built to be a gunpowder magazine. So, it's just familiar. It's the only reason why. I didn't even believe this story until I got kicked out of Philadelphia Alley and had to start reading up on it. And I started getting, like, actual evidence out of it. I'm like, oh, there's actually stuff here. But the funny thing is, they say you can see Anne Bonny's ghost pretty much all over Charleston. I just like to bring you here because it's people in Charleston. You guys aren't near the water every day like I am. You guys want to hear about pirates and kick ass kind of shit, you know what I mean? So.
What material was placed in the buildings to put out gunpowder fires?
There you go. Keep in mind, I'm also listening for beach. I'm listening for sand, shells.
There's something about miles.
That old
That's definitely old.
shelf.
Old shelf.
Imagine there were shelves somewhere in there.
Well, it's a museum now. It's got bookshelves. I actually am a member here because they have books that I can get quicker here than I can on Amazon. Because they're local writers and they, they get them pretty quickly. Does that say deceased?
Separate, depressed.
Suppressed. Well, let's think about that for a second. she had a baby in Cuba and left without a baby. So they were separate. Causing depression. Stretch, but obviously part of the story. And Bonnie, tell us how many children you had. So if you recall, after she moved back here, she had 4 plus the one in Cuba makes 5. So I'm listening to the number 5 at this point. It's something simple that I can prove. 5:30. We'll take it. Okay, Aunt Bonnie, thank you for that. Can you tell me the name of your mother?
I'm getting a little bit of white, I think. A little
You would know,
fuzzy.
it would be a whole white. Like it would be
No.
top to bottom. Okay.
Apart.
Wow. Okay. Trying to think of a great question that I haven't asked before.
I know it's nothing you can prove, but what happened to that baby that you left in Cuba?
I thought I heard help earlier, like right after you asked that question, almost immediately.
So you heard out?
Help.
Help. I thought I heard first base just now.
Could be. Maybe she doesn't even know what happened.
Very true. Can you tell us where you gave birth to your first child? No spike at all, huh?
And Bonnie, why did you run away with the pirate?
Oh. That's an easy one, huh?
Yeah.
I'm listening to love. Defiance. Hate daddy.
Something.
And Bonnie, when was your trial for piracy in front of Nicholas Laws? I have the specific date.
Where were the pirates hanged? Here?
No, that was Jamaica.
Jamaica?
So we have had a pirate hanging here, but that was a totally different story. That's actually down by Waypoint Garden. So you'll see the plaque for Steve Bonnet. And ironically, he went in front of Chief Justice Nicholas Trott. So apparently there's something with Chief Justice in the name Nicholas. Allegedly, he lived next to the Powder Magazine, but that's untrue. He actually lived where the Dock Street Theater is now, before it was Planters Hotel. So it was. What's funny is there's an elevator. That's interesting. Did you do something?
Yeah, I think I.
Was that you think?
Yeah.
Okay. You would know better than anybody.
Yeah.
But there's an elevator shaft in the courtyard of Dock Street Theater that used to be Nicholas Trott's privy. So that's basically where he took a dump. So when you're in the elevator shaft, you can only imagine what's below you. So some very ancient remains. But Nicholas Trott is the Trott House right next to the Powder Magazine. He only stayed there while he was figuring out that transaction to go move into where that house is over there. But there's a lot of historical misnomers here in Charleston. that I like to clarify when people ask me. Because a lot of times if I take people to the front of the building, they notice the trot house. They're like, oh, what's that place? And I tell them, I give them the gist, like, it's not really what it is. It's not what it says it is. And at least Charleston should really change that because they know better. I know they know better. You know, because I get my information from the Charleston libraries.
Right.
So. So if you get democracy, I'll be more impressed. There was a democracy among pirates. They did vote. They even voted for their captains. So again, administration, yes. Yeah, that's it though. Well, maybe Dad's law firm. He was an attorney. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna call it. What do you guys think? Yeah, getting pretty light. So hopefully I can capture things that we missed in real time in the morning. So, what questions you guys have as I collect devices, and then I guess one of you can page or text your ride. Or is that a raindrop
somewhere around?
I felt like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I think they're right there actually.
Oh, perfect.
What was the name of the ship?
Oh, that was the Kingston.
Kingston.
So listen for anything that has the word King in it. So it's really, I'm not expecting the Kingston to come through.
What does it say?
Arrangement.
Arrangement.
Well, I'm gonna give you guys my card so you guys can get to your ride.
Okay.
And that way you guys can check out the website ahead of time. And then, of course, I will text you in the morning with all of the data. I'm usually done before noon.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that. I do sleep in from time to time. Because I'm, pretty much all night uploading your data. So that way I can just work on it in the morning and see what comes up. But you guys did well. You had great questions. So I'm hoping we can actually capture more.
Find something in between.
Yeah, so my phone number and email is on the back of that. So if you guys find more in the data that I missed, because remember, I'm not going to go through it all, you guys will have my contact info so you can get in touch with me. So is that your ride?
I'm pretty sure it is. It's the same kind of car, so I'm like 90% sure it is.
Check it out.
Gotcha.
We might just be walking up to some random stranger's
I know,
car,
right?
but at least y'all are still here, so
Yeah.
if y'all could.
Alright, so what other questions do we have? Phones. Oh, that made this really nice and easy. I gave you both phones. They go in the same
Has a
pocket.
question that's completely unrelated,
Sure.
but I heard like in the park there's this like stone circle
Which
that's
park?
supposed to be haunted. I don't know, some park stone circle. It's like by the water. I can't remember the name of it. We went there with your dad last time we were